Far out in the uncharted backwaters of the unfashionable end of the western spiral arm of the galaxy lies a small, unregarded yellow sun. Orbiting this at a distance of roughly 92 million miles is an utterly insignificant little blue-green planet whose ape-descended lifeforms are so amazingly primitive that two of them still think doing a podcast called Digital Watches Are a Pretty Neat Idea is a pretty neat idea. These podcasters have, or rather had, a problem, which was this. Actually, this is the solution. Hey, Brian, what's this?
Hey, Jeff. Well, this is the 5th issue of Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency comic book by IDW.
Yes, it is. And this cover looks familiar.
Yes, it does. I was going to say the exact same thing. We're looking at the exact image, I think, from the final page of the previous book.
Yes.
With no change other than perhaps the list of our friends who are involved with the comic book itself. And I always get the second guy's name wrong.
Yes.
Rael, Kyriazis, Lindsay, and O'Grady.
Yeah, so again, we have the party scene at the gala where Dirk is taking a drink from a tray, and we've got a very dehydrated Estelle with a gun behind him on one side. We've got Bill with a knife behind him on his other side, and basically in front of him is Neferhotep in all his regalia.
And of course, Dirk with his cat cufflinks.
With his cat cufflinks. What would you call those hors d'oeuvres? What do they look like to you?
Well, I think they're supposed to look like bacon-wrapped scallops. I mean, that's the only thing that they mentioned before, but they don't really look that appetizing if
bacony?
They are. Yeah, they don't look bacony at all, do they?
Right, no. All right, so we will go on and we will jump right through the first couple of pages because they're going to be familiar. It's the previously on page. So the one key that they give us in this previously page is the first panel, basically saying, tonight is where you will all learn just how interconnectedness works. So basically what they're saying is just like everything else, they're going to do 4 issues or 4.5 issues of story, and it's going to be at the very end that they cram it all together to make it all make sense.
Exactly.
At least we hope it all makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're just reminding us that the gala is tonight, that Bill and Estelle are on their way to the gala, and Neferhotep I, the sole survivor, the ruler of the desert wastes, the lord of the Nile, Neferhotep the king, is in the building!
He has arrived, sir. Yes, indeed.
Page after that, again, is the Personae page, and once again, no new additions to this issue.
Nope, and the descriptions are pretty much all the same.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So we will go on to the first page of the story. The social commentary for this issue starts on the first panel of the first page, where they're at the gala for King Tutankhamun, but everybody's on their phone and everybody's online doing other things.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you get the little joke, I guess, right? Buzz feet.
These two are doing she says, the queen I most like is Nefertiti, and he's like, oh, all I got is Ankhenshamen. So they were taking the same BuzzFeed, fill out this quiz, and who are you most like?
Unless he's a queen also.
Unless he's a queen also, right. One guy is on some gay dating site. One guy's complaining about the Wi-Fi.
Yep, you got it.
And then somebody else is saying, this is totally beneath my Pinterest.
Mm-hmm. A little bit of a pun there.
Yes.
And of course we see Tanya with a group of musicians playing her viola. Another gentleman, I think, playing the violin, a lady playing the flute, and another one playing the harp.
Correct. And the absolute biggest person in that quartet is the woman playing the flute.
Yes.
Neferhotep is a bit miffed because these worthless people are all in presence of greatness, and they just keep staring at their useless and worthless devices.
Mm-hmm. And then Dirk says, there he is. I knew he'd be here. Now we must. And Hamish cuts him off.
Yes, and Hamish decides he's going to take matters into his own hands, and he's going to show Dirk what a good associate he'll make.
And of course, Dirk remarks, assistant. But wait, Hamish, don't.
So on to page 2. So Hamish is making a beeline for Neferhotep, and he zips right past Bill and Estelle.
Mm-hmm. And Estelle recognizes him and says he's Dirk's little helper. And Bill, of course, says he shouldn't have taken him out before.
And better now than never, as he always says.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got a gargantuan Neferhotep.
Yes, he looks like Hulk on steroids.
Yes, his head is about 3 sizes too small for his body.
Mm-hmm.
So they had fun drawing muscles in this one.
Oh, I guess so.
And Hamish is coming up to him, and Neferhotep is still complaining about simpering weaklings and that they need to be made to respect true royalty, and he's just the king to do it.
Mm-hmm. So Hamish sidles up to him and agrees with him and says, so some of these people are really bad, huh?
And Neferhotep is a little surprised that he also recognizes that.
Mm-hmm.
And he just needs to know which one of those worthless but tasty morsels he should consume first. On to page 3. So as Hamish is looking over the crowd, he apparently sees the crazy lady, Estelle. And he has a suggestion for Neferhotep.
And Neferhotep says, where to start?
And Hamish is saying that, you know who's even worse than distracted folk?
Neferhotep says, speak, strange boy. I can't imagine anyone. Go on.
Well, there's a certain kind of younger man who takes advantage of elderly ladies.
And Neferhotep responds, execrable.
What the hell is execrable?
Well, I had to look that one up. It means extremely bad or unpleasant.
Must be an old word.
Must be. Very odd. And then he goes on to say, in my time, no one lived past 25. Who would dare mistreat an elderly woman?
And Hamish says, funny you should ask. I'd say someone just like him. And points at Bill, who's running with a knife alongside of Estelle. And they're both screaming, Time to die. So on to page 4. So now we get to see a large, pretty much a full bleed page on top, where Neferhotep has grabbed Bill and Estelle and is draining the life out of them, while everybody is on their phone videoing it.
Mm-hmm. And Neferhotep is the only one who speaks, basically, throughout the entire page.
Yes.
So Neferhotep says, in response to it's time to die, he says, agreed. And it is indeed time for someone to die. And I see this female person is complicit, not infirm. So she too will feed me, as will you. So she has his right hand around Estelle, his left hand around the head of Bill.
Yes.
Sucking the life force out of them.
And then he wants to know who's next.
And he says, oh, right, all of you. And Hamish goes,
oops. So his plan isn't working out quite how he hoped.
I love that. Oh, that was good.
So we will go to page 5. So on this page, we have Neferhotep looming over a bunch of the gala attendees. And do you remember the sub shop Quiznos?
Yes.
So he's basically saying their slogan, which was, tasty.
Oh my goodness. And they are all trying to flee the event, and of course one of them is concerned whether or not the proper social media is being tagged.
Correct. And someone is doing the old joke about, I don't have to be faster than the bear, I just have to be faster than you. Which I've always thought there's a flaw to that, because if I don't run, the bear is only going to chase the person that runs.
That's right.
So, go ahead. You're faster than me.
And Neferhotep is working his way through what he calls unsatisfying empty morsels.
Right.
As people trail behind him.
And then Hamish is running for his life, screaming for Dirk, saying that Neff is on the attack.
And the bottom 3 panels.
Dirk sees him coming and is basically shaking his head, going, incompetence and panic. Not what I need in an assistant. Now, I must think. The solution to all of this is here.
And right as he says that, Neferhotep screams, Dirk, gently, you are next.
Yes.
In a very menacing, large,
imposing.
Yeah.
So we will go on to page 6.
Interesting page.
What a great lineup on top. That's chaos ensues.
Yeah, I wanted to comment that the last page was quite graphic in its styling. The artistry of this particular comic book is, I think, pretty good.
Yes.
You know?
I agree.
And on this page, it's quite unusual. The top panel shows the gala as it's being destroyed by Neferhotep, and we've got little bubbles showing us the various people and their position.
And their expressions.
Exactly. We've got Tanya and Hamish and Crowther and Susan and Dirk and Craig and Kate.
Right. And up above, on the very top of the page, you can see Neferhotep.
Right.
So it's interesting in the way they do this. So it's a top-down view. It looks kind of like a Where's Waldo book. And there's word bubbles, but inside all the word bubbles is each person's face. So you would never be able to tell who was who in there. So to be able to show you, they have their face instead of what they're saying.
Right. Of course, the bottom 5 panels echoes back to what we knew was coming.
Yes.
Tanya is searching for Susan and Dirk.
Right.
With her viola held up high in the air.
Right.
Running through the crowd, she bonks Craig on the back of the head with her viola.
Right.
And Craig seems to go all dizzy and pink little bubbles popping out of his head.
Right.
And he says, strange, that violin.
And then Dirk finally realizes that it's not the violin, it's the vibration. So when she clunks his head, the strings on the violin vibrate, and that is what has been affecting Craig. And of course, he knew it all along. Page 7.
Another wildly drawn page.
Yes. This is sharp diagonals, and you have to kind of tilt your head at a 45 to read it.
So, as we described, this page is at an angle. So, starting in the top left corner, we have Kate, and she remarks, Dirk, this is getting out of hand. We have to stop him.
And Dirk is like, we will. For the proper solution has to come to me. And then he says, Tanya, I need you and your violin. The hardest, most difficult song in existence. Play it now. Now, why wouldn't he come up with the song? Like, did the writers of this not want to actually come up with a piece that is considered the hardest? Does he want the hardest in existence, which he says, or does he want the hardest that Tanya knows and that Tanya can actually play?
Right. But he does tell us what he wants in the bottom page. At least the artist, anyway. And then Kate says, Dirk, a song? Now? She doesn't believe Dirk's approach is going to work. I'm calling the CIA, Kate says.
Dirk says, not yet. Trust me, this will work, where guns will not. Wiping the museum walls failed to send them back before because we didn't account for the earlier time anomaly Mr. Bird created. Noise, vibration. People in different time periods resonate at different frequencies. Find the right counter frequency, and we can vibrate out of existence. It happens by accident more times than people think. To get rid of Neferhotep, we'll need multiple complex frequencies. We'll need the music of Bach.
And of course, the reference to Bach takes us back to the first book.
Correct. On to page 8. So Dirk gets together with Craig, and he's making sure that Craig understands that if the violin works, it's going to send him back too.
And Craig says, it's okay, man. I'm ready. Really been quite a trip.
And then Tanya is just wailing on that violin. Man, she is... That is quite an image of Tanya, and she is just sweating bullets and gritting her teeth, and the arms going a mile a minute.
And she says, Dirk, I'm getting tired. Bach's chaconne from Partita in D minor is tough.
So he did come up with a song. So I was giving him crap for not doing some research and finding a difficult song, but they came up with one. And Dirk is telling her that it's not too tough for his associate. Keep playing, because it's working, as Craig is fading out of existence.
And then in the bottom 3 panels, our massive gentleman,
yes,
Neferhotep, with people in each hand, says, that awful din might be affecting the traitorous Craig, but I have grown too powerful, Dirk gently.
And Dirk is like, damn it, we have to break his concentration. A distraction of some kind.
And Kate says, leave that to me.
So, what do you think Kate has planned to distract
I have no idea.
Neferhotep?
An attack of drones?
Yeah. It could be. We will find out. So, page 9. Well, you called it, because a drone just whacked Neferhotep right in the side of the head.
Yeah, it's a pretty small target with that body, though.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh. Oddly out of proportion.
Yeah. And Dirk is now telling Crowther to get out his special gold phone and make a call.
Right.
And Crowther saying that this time of night, and he's just like, then dial the operator. It's 0, 1 number.
And Neferhotep is feeling weak in the middle panel.
Yes. And Dirk can't understand why Crowther hasn't made a call.
And Crowther says, he keeps dialing wrong. I got fat fingers, man.
And Craig, as he gets fading out more and more and more, is like, so odd, this. And Dirk is saying, Craig, it's nearly time.
And then from the side of the panel you see, time, you say?
So, Brian, are you going to guess who that is?
Well, we only know one other time traveler.
Yes, we do. So we're going to find out on page 10. No, it's not. I thought it was going to be Reg.
Oh, you thought it was going to be Reg? It's Mr. Bird.
So we get to see Mr. Bird marching towards Dirk.
And Mr. Bird says, time can be a funny thing. Let me tell you.
And Dirk says, nothing funny about it. Mr. Bird, I presume.
The immortal Mr. Bird. And he says, I have traveled the oceans of time, seen the Big Bang, watched a dying sun cool to a cinder, Mr. Gently, and hello again, Craig.
So it sounds like he's been to the 2 different restaurants.
The Big Bang Burger Bar.
And the restaurant at the end of the universe to see the dying sun.
On these panels now, Craig is starting to fade away, and he says, hey, as Mr. Bird arrives.
And Dirk says, I don't care what you've seen. Why have you done all this? Giving soul-stealing phones to the downtrodden? Traversing time and space for what? For
the only thing worth a damn in this corrupt world, a friend. I am simply here for my traveling companion, Craig.
And then Crowther holds up his phone and says, Dirk, I finally got through. What do you want me to tell? And his hand gets grabbed by Neferhotep. And he's like, oh.
Neferhotep says, is that gold? Give it to me.
So, Mr. Bird sent Craig through time and is now coming to get him, and that excuses everything that he's doing for his friend. It doesn't make sense at this point, but we got a few more pages.
That's right.
So we will go on to page 11. So Neferhotep is trying to take Crowther's phone, and he's going to have none of it. So they are just fighting back and forth, and each one thinks they deserve it. And Neferhotep is starting to consume or eat the spirit and the energy of Crowther.
Jeez.
And then Crowther says, you ain't doing me like Virgil got done.
And those are the top 3 panels of the page. On the bottom 4 panels, we see a different view.
And that fight continues on in the background, and Dirk and Mr. Bird and Craig are having a conversation. Craig says, you came all the way here? For me?
Mr. Bird says, spanning eons is lonely without you, as he gently touches his face.
And Dirk is like touching, I'm sure, but not good enough. And Craig saying, I can go home and stay home?
And Mr. Bird says, if that is what you wish. However, a time-jaunting doctor I know has convinced me of the merits of traveling with a noble companion. I would like that to be you.
Who could he be talking about?
Well, of course he's talking about Doctor Who, right?
Of course.
Not our buddy Reg, right?
No.
Because Reg wasn't a doctor. Oh my gosh.
Reg could have been considered a doctor of whatever his PhD was in.
That's
but
true.
Reg never traveled with a companion.
No, you're right. So this had to be the Doctor Who.
Right.
Trying to tie it all together, aren't they?
Yes. Craig says he's going to let Mr. Bird know by, how about Constantinople?
Unacceptable, says Dirk. It's now Istanbul, not Constanta. Oh, never mind.
Right.
About to break into song there, wasn't he?
Yes. So, page 12. Craig's fading away, and he's going, and Dirk is wishing him goodbye and wanting Mr. Bird to be held accountable for what he's done.
And Mr. Bird says, oh, I shall be in due time, Mr. Gently. The strands of time are interconnected too. As you will see, consider this goodbye, but not farewell, since we will again meet when...
What? When? Time travelers all build up an anticlimax, they are.
Yep.
And from off panel, somebody yells, "Hey!"
And then he goes on to say, oh, right, this situation. And realize the fight that's going on between Crowther and Neferhotep. And Neferhotep says, I grow weaker. What?
And Crowther saying, "You want this phone so badly? Well then, here. This calls for you." So I'm kind of impressed with Crowther here because he's on his back with Neferhotep on top of him, sucking the life out of him, and he's got some presence of mind to not only use his phone to take the life from Neferhotep, but to come up with a catchy tagline as well.
Absolutely. Well done, Crowther.
Yeah. So on to page 13.
Wow, this is a stunning visual page, as some of them have been.
Yes.
It's a vortex of images sliding on into the phone, which is in the middle, kind of rattling back and forth.
Yes. So the largest of the panels in this vortex is Neferhotep trying to remove the phone from his head, saying, "Getting weaker. But this cannot be. I am all powerful, all knowing, all shrinking, fading, this infernal device. But I was meant to rule."
And then you hear the operator. Hello?
So, operator has no idea what's going on. And Neferhotep is gone into the phone.
Excellent.
Page 14.
So again, this is a neat graphic page. On the far left side, full panel, you see Dirk standing there with the gold phone lying on the ground, and the life energy seeping into it, sucking into the phone itself.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the panels top to bottom on the right. There are 5 of them.
Yes. And view is kind of from the floor looking up at Dirk. And of course, Dirk says, "And so it ends as it had to end. As I knew it would, of course."
Mm-hmm. And in the bottom, Tanya says, "Wow." And Crowther says, "My phone."
Right. And then the phone is going, "Caller, are you there?" And Dirk is saying, "Pardon the bother. A time-traveling, power-mad would-be king got his due comeuppance, and you played your part, whether you knew it or not. Bye now." And he hangs up the phone and says, "Crowther, your phone, now with fully charged batteries, it seems," and tosses the phone to Crowther.
Right. And then Crowther says, "Well, what do you know?" And Crowther goes, "Siri, are you there?"
And the phone, in a very mechanical voice, says, "Call me Neferhotep, not Siri, but what can I help you with?"
"So, I can make calls without getting tired?" says Crowther.
And Dirk says, "Yes, now and forever. You'll be playing with house money, so dial away." Page 15. So the top panel is Tanya, Susan, Dirk, and Crowther all standing around in the aftermath. And Tanya's looking at her violin saying, "It's trashed, but pretty sure they're going to take my chair away after this anyway."
And Susan goes, "So, it's over."
And Dirk, of course, says, "Ended in the exact fashion in which I knew it would. Yes."
All bluster.
All bluster. And then I like that Crowther is messing with Neferhotep.
Oh, yeah. He says, "Nephi, who's the best Egyptian king you know?"
And the phone says, "Not funny."
Then Hamish asks Dirk, "Dude, that was intense. Also, how good a sidekick was I?"
So Dirk says to Hamish, "Perhaps not as bad as you think, based on Crowther's recovery. The other people will soon do the same."
Crowther says, "Feeling pretty strong again, I gotta say."
And Dirk says, "Except perhaps for the serial killers." And we see a picture of not just dehydrated, but bones of Estelle and Bill.
Bones going to dust, that's for sure.
And Kate Schechter in the background says, "Well, this is quite a mess." And Dirk says, "But into every rainy day, a little sunshine must come." Page 16. So another fantastic page with a full bleed with 4 inset panels on the right-hand side. And basically it's the recovery of the gala guests, and nobody's really having any idea what happened and thinking that they need to check social media to find out what happened. A couple of things of note. Tanya is a little bit upset that she had her big solo and nobody even heard it.
Crowther is messing with Neferhotep again on his phone. He says, Nephi, who owns the best phone in the world?
And again, in the mechanical voice, you hear Neferhotep saying, "Stop, damn you. Also, you do. Now." Dirk and Kate are talking.
And Kate says, Dirk, I'd love to say it was good to see you again, but...
And Dirk says, "But you don't have the words, I know, but the sentiment is appreciated."
The next panel, Crowther says, man, I sure did make a great assistant today.
And Hamish says, "Associate. And no, you didn't. I did. Me and Tanya."
You sure? Who saved the day with their little old gold phone? You? Nope. In fact, I might have just become Dirk's next partner now, thanks to this baby.
And then Hamish says, "Don't even, dude. That job is mine." And then he mumbles, "If only Dirk agreed."
Oh my gosh.
So on to page 17.
So on this whole page, we have a conversation between Kate and Dirk. And Kate begins, she says, once I've mopped this mess up, I want to have a longer chat about what this was. It was pretty fantastic, but not in a good way.
And Dirk says, "My description exactly regarding the idea of dating a Norse deity, Kate. Life gets complicated, even in San Diego."
And she says, get before the police get here. But I'm serious, Dirk, gently. We'll talk again soon, and until then, we'll be watching you. And you see the drone.
And Dirk says, "Sounds like as much of a threat as a promise."
Right, and in the background you can see the drone flying.
So on to page 18. So in the aftermath, Dirk and the group are walking away, and Dirk says, "As I was saying, the theory of interconnectedness was proven out most judiciously tonight, and you all played your parts perfectly."
Then Hamish says, I know I did, but I'm not actually totally convinced about Susan. When you think about it, she, with her magnifying glass, didn't have anything to do with the resolution.
And then Susan throws the magnifying glass up in the air and knocks a drone out of the sky. And Dirk says, "I'm sorry, were you saying something, Hamish?"
And Hamish goes, never mind. At least he got my name right this time.
Yeah.
Oh.
On to page 19. So on this page, it starts saying, "A short time later." And Dirk is standing on a stool with a hammer, and he's tacking something on the building out of frame. And Tanya's saying, "Be careful up there, Dirk."
And then Susan says, it's fine, we're insured.
And Dirk says, "Pish tosh, I'm more adept with a hammer up a ladder than most people are with both feet on terra firma."
And then the argument between Crowther and Hamish continues about who's the next assistant. From atop his ladder, Dirk says,
"Associate."
Hamish says, oh man. So then Susan says, Crowther, you know you're welcome to take up residence here.
So Crowther's appreciating it, but he says right now he's at the hotel with Neferhotep, tore it up, and when that's done, the streets are where he belongs because that's where he met Virgil. And he also says, "You just can't beat the view from my backyard." And he's showing from below, and you can see a beautiful sky above him. And he says, but if I ever need anything, I'll call ya. And we'll go on to page 20. So on the last page of this story, we have a crowded coffee shop, and Tanya and Dirk are talking.
And Tanya says, thanks to you, Dirk, I've lost my orchestra seat for good, it seems.
And Dirk tells her that only the lucky few are changed through the experience of working with me, Tanya.
I know, and I meant that as a compliment. All the videos of my performance that night went viral. And Tanya continues, I've never had such a following as this, and neither has the coffee shop. But with that...
And Dirk says, yes, you choose to remain a solo artist for now. Understood.
Then Susan hears the phone ringing again, and she says, the phone never rang so much either, and you might as well get it, Dirk. My intuition tells me it's for you.
Dirk saying there's no such thing, talking about Susan's intuition, and he says, hello, you've reached the new offices of Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, and I already know you need my help. And they show a sign of Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency tacked over the sign of the tea shop.
With a cat in the middle.
Yes. And then one last page is explaining that there is a new volume of Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, A Spoon Too Short.
And on there it says the next issue is February of 2016.
Right, and the picture is Dirk holding a cup of tea in front of what looks like a murder board, but it isn't really just a board, it is the entire room that has red yarn strung from ceiling to wall to wall to wall.
And there's a cat playing with the yarn in the background, and there's a rhinoceros on the table in front of him. And there's a picture of Douglas Adams in a frame.
Yes.
And a large knife taped on the back wall.
Right.
Quite fun. And Bach penciled in.
Yes. And now I'm curious about the subtitle of this one being A Spoon Too Short, because it reminds me of Hitchhikers in some fashion, but it's not exact. It's sort of, I don't know, I don't even call it an homage to it, but do you know what I'm talking about?
No. Enlighten me.
It would be in the radio program of the second season, which never got translated into any other media. And that is where the Haganenons, the rapidly evolving species.
Right.
And there's a line about if they were a being that had arms that were too short to reach a spoon to stir their coffee,
Right.
they would evolve into something else, but would probably be unable to drink the coffee.
Right, exactly.
So a spoon too
gosh.
short is not what they were talking about there, but that's where it brings me.
Right.
So I can't wait for this next issue.
Right, and the next issue actually is a new series, right?
Yes.
Now that we know how this comic book concluded, what's next, Jeff?
Well, I've been enjoying these comic books a lot, so I don't think we're going to break from them, and I think that there's another 5-issue run of Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, A Spoon Too Short. So I think like this one, we will do 3 episodes for the first 3 issues of this book next month, and then we'll finish up the following month with the last 2.
Well, that's fantastic. I can't wait.
Neither can I. And now that we have that out of the way, I have to say that this is the end. Thank you for listening to this. A new episode is released on the first Thursday of every month. A special thank you goes out to Luke, Max, Greg, and Tim Lesnick for arranging and performing our opening theme. Visit our website at digitalwatchesareaprettyneatidea.buzzsprout.com. While there, you can find links to all of my Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy inspired t-shirt designs. You can contact us via email at digitalwatchespodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on YouTube and Facebook at Digital Watches Are a Pretty Neat Idea. You can message us on Twitter, or should I say X, at Watches Idea, and our Instagram is Watches Idea Podcast.
This has been a Froods for Thought production.